welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I'm Peter, also known as Mono White Border.
We're bringing back an episode format that we tried out in Thunder Junction, and that's where we're going to look at the 10 archetypes for Bloomburrow, the official Wizards descriptions. They give us a little paragraph about each of them now, and then look at those through a couple different lenses. And what we're hoping that this does is it allows us to not just learn about the new set a little bit more, but also develop some tools, develop some thought processes for how we should do archetypes, how we should signal archetypes in our own custom sets.
Yeah, we got a couple different categories that we used last time, and we're bringing back this time as well. As a reminder, we rank each one of these 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. The first category is excitement. Just at first glance, how excited are we about this archetype? Is it offering us something new, an interesting new design space? Is it fun to play in? Very subjective, just kind of general takeaway. Next up is accuracy. So just looking at the uncommon, how reflective is that uncommon of what Wizards says that the archetype's going to do? How likely are we going to be able to make that thing happen? Are there going to be enough cards in that archetype to kind of support it? Synergy, we kind of use this as, will this archetype make 2 cards combined to be better than the sum of their parts? Is 2 cards in this archetype going to be uniquely better in this archetype than they are anywhere else? Or is this archetype really just kind of general good stuff? And the last one is raw strength. So just looking at those 2 archetype uncommons, or 1 archetype uncommon depending on the set, how strong is that card? And we'll rank that as well.
And with these 4 categories, we're not necessarily trying to tell you how to draft Bloomburrow. This is not a data thing. This is not trying to, rank the color pairs in terms of which you should first pick and stuff like that. This is meant to stay kind of in the design zone, though things like raw strength do get into the power level unlimited. This is not meant to be data backed or scientific.
Yeah, before we actually get into these descriptions, I kind of read ahead a little, Tim, and
yeah,
I think my takeaway was, I think these might be the most milquetoast archetypes in recent memory as far as new sets go.
Whereas a Thunder Junction thing, blue-white there was, don't cast cards during your turn. Cast them at flash speed or whatever. Which is not something that you could, probably guess, knowing, hey, there are ghosts on this plane. What did the ghost want you to do? I don't know. Cast, but it's not something you would ever think about. We need those archetype uncommons to really hit hard and say, hey, if you don't cast something on your turn, we're going to give you a Windrake for free. We're going to let you draw a card for free. Really powerful, distinct signposts. Whereas here in Bloomburrow, we don't have to work quite that hard. It's hey, what are the lizards up to in the set? Well, we'll see as we talk about it. But you just know, if you get 12 lizards, then you probably have a deck that has a cool identity.
Yeah. I think it will make it inviting and easy to go into. That's, you know, hey, I'm going to play. I mean, it's the reason I'm excited about the set, and I was excited to do this episode. We got the pre-release coming up hold on, dating ourselves. Pre-release just happened.
Depending on, yeah. We're recording pre-release, which I think is good for keeping our minds clean, but maybe, it's kind of emphasizing that we're not here to tell you what the powerful ones are. We're here to look at it kind of on paper. We're here to look at this what does just reading the card tell us about what we're supposed to do?
But as a Redwall fan and reader myself, especially when I was a little kid, and Bloomburrow really hitting that flavorfully, it is a selling point for me to say oh, I want to sit down and I want to draft the mouse deck. I want to be playing mice and being heroic little mice creatures.
Yeah, and maybe the goal is to not push people out of what they're supposed to want to do. I want to just make the deck that has 13 mice in it, and then please just make those cards work together, which is a little different from maybe how a archetype uncommons might normally work, which is hey, don't put all of the dinosaurs in your deck. Put only the dinosaurs that have toughness greater than their power. Something more specific that you have to think about while you're drafting, while you're deck building. All right, so our first one up, just like we did last time, is blue-white. And blue-white, according to Wizards, is going to be Birdfolk and Flyers boost non-flyers. Birds bring bonuses. Cast flyers who airdrop buffs onto your non-flying creatures. Make sure you have a healthy balance of flyers and non-flyers so you always have a target.
Nice. So you're kind of, the goal is here to mix them together, and our uncommon to go with that is Plume Creed Mentor, 1 white blue for a 2/3 flying. Whenever it enters or another creature you control with flying enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying. 3 mana, 2/3 flyer, solid body. Cares about you having a flying creature enter while you have a non-flyer on the battlefield to boost that guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can be hard to price flyers to be under 3 mana because then they're like 1 power creatures, which maybe don't fully have value. So this is saying like, hey, get the best 2 drops that you can. And then this bird on top is going to bring buffs for that 2 drop to like let you start the offense and keep pursuing that.
You'll play a 1 or 2 drop, you'll play this 3 drop, and then you'll play your 4 mana 2/2 flyer and buff one of your 2 drop and get in.
Yeah. The other half is the common card. So all these commons are going to be hybrid. And this one is called Seed Pod Squire. It's 3 and a hybrid, so 4 mana for a bird scout, and it has flying. Whenever it attacks, target creature you control without flying gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And this one's a 3/3. So these are like really, really similar in what they're doing.
Yeah, the only tricky part of this archetype is making sure you have a non-flyer on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you're just going to have incidentally. It's almost makes the like blue-white flyers is a very common draft archetype.
Yeah.
And it does make it a little bit more fun that your blue-white flyers deck has something that cares about your non-flyers, so your non-flyers don't just feel like curve filler. Hey, I set something up here. I feel like I had a little engine. I feel a little Johnny inside of me.
All right, let's hit our scores here. So excitement. How novel is this archetype? How exciting will it be to try to do what this archetype's telling you to do?
I want to give them props for the combination of flying, non-flying.
Yeah.
It's not particularly exciting, but maybe a 3 here. It's not unexciting.
So yeah, I think this is like for a blue-white flyers archetype, which I think would default as a 1.
Yeah.
I think getting up to 3 is actually pretty good.
Yeah. You know, you're looking at kind of an average score, but I feel like this archetype should be really proud of its average score.
Yeah.
As for accuracy, I think they really nailed it.
Pretty high on that too. Yeah.
I think it's probably a 5.
4 or 5. Yeah.
The description is play flyers that buff your non-flyers. Both of these cards are flyers, and they care about buffing non-flyers, and it seems extraordinarily easy to achieve. So I think you got to give it a 5 there.
Yeah, I could believe that. Part of this accuracy thing is like, will your deck function if you're doing this? And if you're playing a bunch of ground creatures, making them big, and then your flyers are like finishing the game off, that's a great plan to win a limited game on a base level. So that's really believable. That's a functional deck. And there are some like extra little twists in this particular set because, you know, targeting your non-flying creatures over and over is going to be just absolutely beautiful with all the mice cards that are valiant that want to be targeted. So I can really believe that like whatever ground creatures I'm picking up, I have a good shot of picking up ones that want to be buffed.
Yeah, and that brings us right to synergy. What do you think about the synergy scored for these cards? I mean, you are literally making other cards better, but you know, I don't know if it's in a meaningful way when we're talking about synergy, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's not taking an unplayable card and suddenly it's like, yeah, I need this non-flyer in my deck.
You get a couple buffs here and there, but they're not huge buffs. Like these aren't hammers. You're just curving out kind of okay. I feel like most 2 drops will benefit from the Mentor. Like it's not like you're looking for really specific ones. And there's a little bit of deck building, so it's maybe not a 1, but a 2 or a 3, I would say.
I think I'm right there with you. I think I'll bump it up to a 2 just
All right.
because there is some consideration about what you're playing, but most of the time it's going to be sequencing in game, not so much
Yeah.
card choices during draft.
Yeah. All right. And then we got raw strength. So how powerful are these cards if you aren't trying to do any deck building? You just get, 2 jumpstart packs and mash them together. You just get, your sealed pool. How powerful are these cards in that context?
I mean, this Bloomcreed Mentor is pretty solid. How many triggers do you think you want to get off this Bloomcreed Mentor to feel like you got your money's worth? I mean, if you get 2, aren't you pretty happy?
If I got 1, I feel like I got my mana's worth, and if I got 2, I feel like I'm actually like pulling ahead because of this card.
Mm-hmm. And Seed Pod Squire, I mean, 4 mana 3/3 flyer, definitely on rate for Modern Magic, right? We're at 4 mana 3/3. I know I said 4 mana 2/2 earlier, and I've put a lot of 4 mana 3/2s in a set, but 4 mana 3/3 is the standard now, correct?
Yeah. We've seen that actually a lot lately, and it actually hasn't been that successful in many sets. For a while, it was almost like a rule. You would never see 4 mana 3/3 flyers like in a Theros or something like that.
Yeah.
But they started putting them in sets, and they weren't actually that powerful. 4 mana 3/3 flyers are like probably the worst blockers of any French vanilla because you spent a lot of mana on them, and their late game value is pretty high, so you basically never want to block with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 4 drops, and once you start to go to 4 or 5 or 6 drop, then you're naturally a little bit worse of a limited card because you trip up a little bit on your mana, and this thing sits in your hand too long. So the Squire, I would say, is not a high raw strength card. It would be maybe a 2 for me, or even a 1, which is fine. They're also commons, which is a little funny for this episode format.
Right. I think what we're viewing Seed Pod Squire in the context of is as a common, and it sounds to me like you're saying even at common 4 mana 3/3 flyer is not breaking any limited formats.
It's not a powerful card. There's no chance I would consider first picking this. It's not even close to that level. The Squire is like definitely. I'll take any removal spell over it. I'll take almost any 2-drop over it. That kind of thing. So I'm probably saying like a 2 or a 3 on this, and I'll go with whatever you think.
Yeah, well, let's give it a 3. I think the Bloomcreed Mentor is a really nice card. You get instant value upon ETB, and then you're just going to keep growing your team, hopefully.
It has raw power. Because it's a 3-drop, you don't have a 2-drop yet. You probably have some other 3-drop you can cast, and then just wait to cast this Mentor when you actually have something to buff. All right, tell us about our next one.
All right, next up we have Rat Folk. Shout out to Crypt Rat of the Beacon Discord. I think they're super excited about this archetype. Slow down your opponent with strong blockers and creature removal. Fill up your graveyard to unlock your Rat's Threshold abilities. Then use them to close out the game.
Threshold. It's back.
Yeah, welcome back, Threshold. It's been a while.
I'm kind of excited. The cards that I've seen go by on Threshold, I feel like they kind of did it. They needed a mechanic for to put on 8 cards or whatever because they wanted to just be on rats. I don't know. It kind of in the guild mechanic zone. We don't need to have the whole format be about Threshold. We just need a couple guys to care about Threshold.
Threshold's such a classic graveyard mechanic. I feel like it's a little nostalgic, and it is one of those fun, almost fundamental mechanics of MTG.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting here once we get into synergy and stuff like that, because Threshold is in the same set as a mechanic that eats your graveyard called Forage. We'll talk more about Forage later, but you have sort of a push and pull. You don't necessarily just want to lump all the black cards together because they're going to be competing for resources. All right, let's get into our 2 cards. I guess we'll do uncommon first, and that's going to be Tidecaller Mentor. This is 1 blue-black, so 3 mana for a 3/3 menace. And then Threshold. When it enters, if you have Threshold, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand.
Okay, so we got a 3 mana 3/3 with menace, so very good body, but it's not something you're going to be playing on turn 3 a whole lot, I imagine, because you kind of want to get that bounce ability.
Yeah, threshold, if you're not like enabling it hard, is kind of a thing that happens on like turn 8 or 9. And like it's probably even slower than something like Ascend from Ixalan. So maybe the reason that the setup of this card is a little different from how I'd normally, from the pitch of Ratfolk, which is like slow the game down, then get a ton of value. This is more of like a split card. It's either a 3/3 menace creature that attacks 3 times and gets some damage in, or it's like a late game bounce card to like pivot the game and take control of it.
In some ways, I feel like it is signaling really well that you want to be slowing the game down, because the ability on this, it communicates to me at least, and hopefully to less experienced Magic players as well. Hey, you're not going to be playing this on curve all the time. For maximum value, you're going to want to play it later in the game.
Yeah. If this were like a blue card that was just, 3/3 ETB bounce a permanent, like no threshold, no rider, like that would probably be like 5 mana, because that's like actually like really good at stabilizing. A 3/3 is like a reasonable thing to like trade off in blocks, and then bouncing their best creature knocks off some counters, or like it makes them repay for something that they had to use a resource for. So that's like a kind of a naturally powerful effect. Whether threshold comes online early enough for it to be close to that powerful, I guess we'll find out. But it at least gives you a good reward for hitting threshold. You might be often hanging on a thread. You're down to 4 life or whatever as you finally get that 7th card in your graveyard. And this says, "Yep, we're going to give you 2 things to help you slow the game down."
Yeah, I am curious to see in this set how much enabling there is in the Ratfolk archetype. Like, are you playing a 2-drop creature that mills you 4 cards or something? It is weird to me, at least, that your uncommon isn't necessarily enabling that graveyard dumping.
Yeah.
Which you might expect. But once again, that could be signaling, hey, this is slower. You aren't going to get this till later in the game. So make sure that you have enough control magic in order to prevent the opponent from steamrolling you.
Or if you have just the right hand, just play this on 3. Go 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, buff it with a bird or something like that, and then just try to aggro them out, put them on the back foot, and which then, causes a bunch of trades, which then fills up the graveyard for threshold. Why don't you give us that comment, and then we'll try to go through and see what we think.
Yeah, so our comment is Mind Drill Assailant.
That's an intense name. Holy cow.
2 blue-black hybrid for a 2/5 threshold. As long as 7 or more cards are in your graveyard, it has +3/+0, and it's got 2 blue-black hybrid, Surveil 1 as an activated ability. So you got a 4-drop 2/5, really good blocker, and late game it becomes a 5/5, and you can help speed that up by dumping cards into your graveyard with its activated Surveil ability.
Yeah. That's a decent amount of mana to be paying for a Surveil 1, but I guess it's kind of free on what is a common, so maybe it's okay. You do that once or twice when your curve doesn't quite line up.
I'm not super excited about the Surveil, but it is like a nice bonus on this card.
I don't know the set very well, so I don't know if this is like, hey, pick up a bunch of enablers, pick up a bunch of mill cards, or if this set is a little bit more like Guilds of Ravnica and Undergrowth, which was the like Golgari mechanic that counted the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Like gain life equal the number of creature cards, get a +1/+1 counter equal the number of creature cards in your graveyard. And in that set, they like really specifically like designed it so that you're not supposed to take a million mill cards, and those mill cards aren't really even available. And it's more, hey, you got to get the cards in the graveyard the old-fashioned way. You got to get some trades. You got to just be playing a lot of permanents. Well, permanents in Undergrowth's case, you could play spells with the Wrath. 5 toughness is a pretty safe amount of toughness compared to like our 4 mana 3/3 flyer, which is pretty helpless on blocks. All right, we can hit up our categories here. Excitement. I guess it's cool the threshold's back.
Ooh, yeah. Do you want to bump it up because of threat? I'm pretty unexcited by another blue-black archetypes that's like, hey, control the game, try and win on turn 9. Good luck. Yeah. That's unexciting. I'm willing to bump it up to 2 for the
Yeah,
sake of
okay.
threshold.
That works for me. Yeah. A 2, but a 5 in Crypt Rat's heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Honorary 5 from Crypt Rat.
Accuracy. Do you think it's going to be possible to fill the graveyard with threshold? Do we think if we do fill the graveyard with threshold, then we'll have a bunch of cards that really care about that?
The way it's presented in the text here is slow down your opponent and then unlock threshold.
Yeah.
I feel like both of these cards, that is your game plan. Like you are playing cards, you're gumming up the board, and you are waiting to get threshold so you can turn the game around.
Yeah.
So in that way, I mean, it is pretty accurate. So I'm thinking maybe a 4 here. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. I'm maybe a little skeptical that threshold will be achievable enough so that it's like regularly good to be playing threshold cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be a non-zero amount of games where you die and you don't get threshold for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess both these cards have like a good baseline plan if that's the case. Yeah, maybe 4. I could believe maybe that's what we're going to start to see with Bloomburrow is like these archetypes are kind of mellow, and because of that, you can kind of do them, they're believable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I find it would be difficult to like see a threshold card that I get the threshold and I'm not excited that I have the threshold either.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a big thing too. Is like
Okay.
I feel like it should be easy to achieve. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, at least looking at these 2 cards, when you hit threshold, your cards do really upgrade.
Yes.
We're not
I'm
just getting like
happy
one
about it.
extra power. You know, we're getting like if you always had threshold mode on these cards, these would be maybe the best common and the best uncommon. You know, so yeah, you are getting rewarded for doing the thing. Yeah,
in the show notes, you put a sentence here that are there just going to be 2 cards printed for this archetype as lip service and won't otherwise matter? And that's what I was kind of thinking of. Like, oh well, probably not with threshold. Probably they're going to have a relevant ability.
Yeah, there will be. We can believe there will be more threshold cards.
Mm-hmm.
All right, synergy. How much does this make other cards better? It makes mill cards way better. Like if I just have the 2 mana 1/3 ETB mill 3 cards, that becomes like choice in this deck. I don't know if that card exists in Bloomburrow.
Neither of these 2 cards though make other threshold cards better, right? Threshold cards don't make each other better. You have to have separate cards that are enabling your threshold, and then you play your threshold.
Okay, I could probably go 3. I feel like threshold is a mechanic that just sort of any limited deck can attempt to meet. Like, except for milling cards and maybe the looting that you're talking about, I could see those being synergy driving. But most of what threshold is going to come from is just forcing combat, forcing blocks, casting removal spells, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you could very easily see the blue-black or the blue-white Flyers deck we just talked about picking up the Mind Drill Assailant and being okay with it. Like, 4 mana 2/5.
All right, raw strength. This is where I'm maybe kind of skeptical because what are we trying to say that's different with raw strength than with other things? We're trying to say like if you have nothing else that says threshold, you have no mill cards, and you put these 2 buddies in your deck. How good are they? If I'm playing like a blue deck with some other color, I guess maybe with the Flyers it could be okay. If I'm playing blue with some of the like spells matter or bouncing stuff, this assailant doesn't really matter. I'm kind of low on this, but I guess I could be talked up a little bit.
I feel like both of these are a little pushed. Like the Tidecaller is a 3 mana 3/3 with menace.
Yeah.
In blue-black, which is not irrelevant.
That's true. The fallback is pretty strong. If you do not have threshold, if you just want a 3-drop, this is a maybe not uncommon level, but this is a solid 3-drop. 3 mana 3/3, not in green, with a combat ability. That's not nothing. So yeah, that's true. It has some built-in strength there.
And Mind Drill Assailant, honestly, that Surveil feels like free. I feel like they gave us an extra bonus ability just because sometimes you're not going to get threshold.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
So I want to show them a little respect. 2 or 3, though.
I could believe 3. No, you're right. You kind of talked me through it, and I feel better about 3.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have got red-black, which are lizard folk, bloodthirsty aggro. Be aggressive and damage your opponents each turn to make the most of your lizard's abilities. Spells that enhance your attacks or deal direct damage are key to making sure your assault never slows down.
That reads pretty well. That reads a little bit different.
Let's get the card because I kind of want to get like what are they actually telling us to do in order to make that happen? Because combat tricks and direct damage are good in aggressive deck. Is not necessarily groundbreaking. But maybe these signposts will give us more.
Yeah, so we got Fireglass Mentor, black-red for a 2/1 Lizard Warlock. At the beginning of your second main phase, if an opponent lost life this turn, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them until end of turn, you may play that card. Whoa. That's a... Whoa.
I could see the direct damage thing paying off for sure now.
It's a lot of words to say spectacle, but I understand not wanting to necessarily put spectacle in the set.
Yeah, because spectacle's a little different because it's like a cost or whatever.
This one giving you an extra, just straight up giving you an extra card, potentially multiple turns in a row, is really just kind of surprising to me.
If I am doing this every turn I'm also looking at 2 extra cards and playing one of those 2 cards. So I'm not fully drawing a card when I do this, like because I don't get to keep those cards. If I have to spend a bunch of mana to do damage, I might not be able to convert that into an extra card. But this is pretty close to draw an extra card every turn that you're able to hit your opponent, which that's pretty legit.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Our common here is going to be Cindering Cutthroat. This is 2 and a hybrid, so 3 mana for a 3/2. It's another lizard, a lizard assassin. Cindering, the hybrid creatures are the killers. The Mind Drill Assailant, the lizard assassin. Wow.
Yeah, that's very true. It seems like these uncommon cards are a little bit more relaxed. You got your mentor. You got 2 mentors and 3 mentors. They're all mentors.
They're all mentors. Yeah, we got 10 mentors.
But they're all like teaching people. But they're at home. They're retired. You know, they've picked up a hobby. You know, this guy he blows glass now for a living. And so he does that, and he's like, "This is a really cool hobby I've picked up." And then all the people he's teaching are like, "That's awesome. I'm gonna go stab somebody.
Gonna murder my enemies." All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll start up this text box again here. So we got 3 mana 3/2, and then when this creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it, if an opponent lost life this turn. So literal Bloodthirst. They called it Bloodthirsty Aggro, and then they put that on the card. And then it's 1 and a hybrid mana, 2 mana. Cindering Cutthroat gains menace until end of turn. So 3 mana 3/2 with 2 different upsides. One of them I have to have gotten, my 1 or my 2 drops out. And then the other I got to spend some extra mana for. But maybe I have extra mana because this deck is all about like just drafting as many 1 and 2 drops as possible.
Yeah, I'm happy to play this card after I've got a little engine going and I'm already dealing damage because I get a nice little 3 mana 4/3. I'm happy to play this card on curve because it can help me get my triggers by granting it menace. Seems like a pretty solid role player in your Rakdos deck.
Well, we got a little more excited when we saw this gold card. Where's your excitement at now? Because this is another one that started low and maybe is working its way up. How high did we get?
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty jazzed about the uncommon. Like, and part of the exercise of this is like, how much are your uncommons selling the archetype? How much are your archetype uncommons selling the archetype? And I'm pretty sold on this. Like, I want to draft Shock now when I see this guy,
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe a 4.
All right. Yeah.
At least a 3.
I could believe it. Yeah. This is one where I do have some deck building things. I really have to cut all the 4 and 5 and 6 drops out of my deck if I can. Because I want everything to be cheap so that whenever I flip cards with Mentor, I'm always casting them. And then whenever I play my Cutthroat, I've already hit my opponent this turn. So I'm enabling my Bloodthirst. All right, accuracy. How possible is it going to be to actually make this happen? From the description, the top line description, like that's just how aggressive decks work. So in that way, it's like just naturally aggressive.
Are you playing a game of Magic? Yes. Yeah. You will probably deal damage to your opponent.
Yeah.
Um,
And so the other half is like, for these specific cards, will these specific cards actually get to do what they're supposed to do?
yeah. The fact that, it just cares about if an opponent lost life, so that means you can also do combat damage. That helps to enable it a lot. I think the fact that it's combat damage is pretty important to making this whole deck functional. I'm pretty happy. I think this is going to happen. We got our menace guy. You can find other forms of evasion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there will be a pinger of some sort in the set.
Yeah.
That would certainly help to enable that. Or if you have even like the, I forget what it's called, Skitter Lizard or something. It's like a 1-mana 1/1 that attacks and deals 1 damage.
Okay, yeah. Whenever it attacks, whether or not it hits, it deals the damage. Yeah.
Yeah. All of that I could see easily appearing in the set. I don't know. I think there's a ton of designs that you could come up with to help make this strategy worthwhile.
Yeah. I play a little bit of that black-red removal to get things out of the way.
Mm-hmm. So I'd say a 5 here. Seems extremely viable.
We haven't gotten to it yet, but we're going to get is it cast spells? Like, kind of traditional is it?
And that's impossible.
And between this archetype, between this Rakdos archetype and the is it one of those tribes has to have like if whenever you cast a spell, deal 1 to everything. Whenever you blah, 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 deal 1 to an opponent, blah, blah, blah. There has to be something like that between those two. All right, synergy. How does this change? Does this archetype change your pick order? Does it change like how good different cards are in your deck? I talked a little earlier where this gold card really makes me want to just cut every 4, 5, and 6 drop, which, is kind of a thing.
I don't know if you drafted a Fireglass Mentor.
Mm-hmm.
How much does shock move in your pick order? I think that's my takeaway. Is it changing how you value shock?
Yeah, it's making shock better. And then like the pinger, like we talked about, tap, deal 1 damage to each opponent. Separately, deal 1 to each opponent. That's a little bit of a control-y thing. This mentor, it's a little hard to consistently get damage in. But together, that's like nuclear. Like I'm drawing an extra card every turn, like really firmly at that point, which that's pretty high synergy. So it's 4 or 5 for me.
Yeah, let's throw it at a 5. Let's be excited.
We're using the whole scale.
Exactly.
For these scaly creatures. Last up, we've got raw strength. How raw power is this? I am rarely impressed by a 3-mana 3/2, and I feel like that carries for this one, so I'm not dying to play that card.
Cindering Cutthroat feels like a 19th or 20th card. Like I said, just a role player. Hey, here's my 3-drop.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I need another 3-drop in this deck. I don't want to play too many 5-drops. Okay, Cindering Cutthroat, get in there.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your feelings on Fireglass Mentor as like? This had a wow factor for me reading it.
It's at least going to draw you 1 or 2 cards. So its raw power is like pretty solid because of that.
Cindering Cutthroat. What are we thinking? That's like a 1 or a 2?
That would probably be a 1 on its own. Yeah.
And Fireglass Mentor, are you thinking 4 or 5?
Yeah, so 4 or 5. It's probably not a 5. If this were like at least a 3/1 or a 2/3 or something like that, then then its body would be solid enough that I'd be confident getting up to 5. Maybe a 4.
Yeah. So
another 3 for raw strength here.
Yeah, you know what? Let's not pick favorites.
Maybe it's a little lower. Maybe it's a 2. Maybe we're saying like you have to be pursuing the synergy for these cards to make sense in a deck.
I like it. Good plan. If that Cindering Cutthroat's not a 4/3 on turn 3, I don't want it.
All right, give us our next one.
Now we have Raccoon Folk,
Ooh.
Which is Big Creature Ramp.
Okay.
Ramp up your mana early to cast big raccoons that dominate the battlefield. Include a few extra cards with high mana values to help trigger the Expend ability, but not so many that you fall behind early in the game. So new ability, Expend. Don't know what that does yet.
Yeah.
Does that? Hopefully that helps pique your interest here.
Yeah.
Getting into the uncommon.
All right, let's get this uncommon here. It's called Wandertail Mentor. It's 2 mana, red green for a 2/2. So 2 mana 2/2. It taps to add red or green, so it's a 2 mana creature. And then it has this new ability. Whenever you expend 4, put a +1/+1 counter on Wandertail Mentor. And it says, you expend 4 as you spend your 4th total mana to cast spells during a turn. This is specifically spells, so like my Surveil from earlier, or the Cutthroat's like Menace ability. That's spending on abilities. You gotta spend 4 mana on spells. And each turn that you do that, this gets 1/1 bigger.
That's a very like raw line of text. It feels very like it's very like crunchy, like it's a little bit grating to read. Like it's you're like I don't know, it feels almost too meta. We've broached a subject that we shouldn't have talked about.
Yeah. Maybe kind of like processors from Rise or from the Gatewatch and stuff.
Yeah. But this card is, I mean, that's pretty legit as far as 2 mana creatures go.
Yeah, that
this
upgrades.
One grows in the late game.
Yeah. But why don't we get the common as well to see what we're trying to ramp into?
All right. Junkblade Bruiser, 3 red-green hybrid for a 4/5 Raccoon Berserker. Trample. When you expend 4, Junkblade Bruiser gets +2/+1 until end of turn.
Okay. Huh.
5 mana, 4/5 trample. Okay. So it can become a Dreadmaw when you spend 4 mana.
Yeah. Okay.
Which seems doable as long as you have the cards in your hand. I feel like spending 4 mana is definitely something you can shoot for.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's a pretty nice 5-drop. I mean, I guess we're seeing like better statted 5 and 6 drops in the play booster era. That was like one of the things that they mentioned, with the overall power level of commons kind of evening out and going up a little bit. That sort of naturally improves, like curving out, that naturally improves 2 and 3 and 4 drops, just stocking your deck with those cards. So the 5 and 6 drops have to get a little more juicy than they've been in the past. And this feels a little more juicy. This is like a good creature. When I play this, I can block as much as I want. And I feel like turning it on for attacking. 6 mana Trampler. It's a great attacker.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been playing Modern Horizons 3 draft recently, and there's that like living weapon 6/6 Dreadmaw thing, and that's felt good even in Modern Horizons. So definitely attacking with a 6/6 is still a really good way to win Magic games.
I'm still interested in this expend thing. You're cool with expend, even if you cast 2 smaller spells, you still kick off expend. So it's pretty reasonable to trigger the turn after you play this bruiser. Maybe if it's getting later than that, if you are getting to turn 8 or something like that, now you have to think, maybe I don't cast my 2-drop yet and hopefully draw another spell so that I can expend. I guess anything that is like the kind of like stereotypical red spell where I discard a card, then draw 2 more cards. That's going to be a big asset for these raccoons, because I'm going to be spending 2 mana to do that, and then hopefully one of the cards that I hit is also something I can spend mana on.
You definitely want to avoid those situations late in the game where you're in top deck mode and you're just praying that you get one of your big things to get to that expend 4 level.
Yeah. So excitement. This expend keyword is not exciting to me at all. This is pretty close to a 1 for me, excitement wise.
I am trying really hard to avoid my own biases against like big creature ramp as a catchphrase.
Yeah.
But if you want to go 1, then I'm going to be right there behind you.
All right. We'll lock pause.
I don't think expend was kind of the hinge on which the excitement score relied upon, and I feel like we got possibly one of the most least exciting sets of reminder text you could put on a card.
Yeah. Accuracy. Are you going to be ramping into big creatures in red green?
Definitely. Are you going to be spending 4 mana on your turn? I think so.
I thought raccoons are supposed to be about like rummaging through trash or whatever.
Well, I think what we're seeing, Tim, is we're seeing Bloomburrow is a world without humans, and a world without humans isn't full of trash. And
Oh
when
no.
raccoons aren't distracted by big trash trying to keep them impoverished,
They become warlords, is what you're
they become
saying?
gigantic warlords and dominate everything. Our trash is the only thing keeping the raccoons at bay.
We needed to poison them to keep them under control. Yeah, to pacify
This
them.
is not a pro-pollution podcast. Please recycle. And
this is like decently accurate to what the blurb says, though. The blurb says, cast big raccoons. Do I believe that expanding encourages me to put 4-drops in my deck? Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Do I believe it's safe to put a ton of 4-drops and stuff in my deck? Maybe that's where we might be getting a little skepticism going.
Yeah, I mean, I think as the lowest you could put this is 4. Honestly, putting it at 4 feels a little bit like we're stretching just because we're worried that everything's going to be a 5.
I don't know. Like, in terms of 4+ creatures in a deck, I guess that's 4+ spells.
4+ spells, and you can cast 2/2-drops
Yeah.
and still achieve it.
Okay. Yeah. And I think the other funny thing that's like almost like a hedge is it says like, but not so many that you fall behind early in the game. So it's almost guarding against what I was trying to pin it for on accuracy. Like,
I know.
You can't actually put 1,000,000 5-drops in your deck. But don't worry, Wizards already covered their butt there with this description.
Yeah. I don't know. I think if we're giving this excitement level 1, it's because we're like, this is something I already do. I feel like we have to give it a 5.
All right, synergy. This is coming in pretty low synergy-wise.
Yeah.
It makes a couple activated ability cards a little worse.
Yeah. And it makes the discard a card, draw 2 cards in red slightly better.
Yeah.
I don't know. The archetype uncommon itself is pretty cool. No, it's
not synergistic. It's cool and it'll play in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the funny thing is like the excitement and the synergy are both basement for me on this.
Yep.
But it does feel like you have to think about the battlefield a little bit more because of the text on these cards. So
I'd throw a synergy at 1 here.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with 1.
But raw strength, I think we're probably looking at a 4 or 5 here.
4,
I mean,
yeah.
the common I think might be the best common that we've seen so far. Would you agree with that?
It is pretty burly, yeah.
It gets through everything else before it.
I guess raw strength, yeah, it's easily the highest raw strength.
Yeah.
The rat I feel is promising power wise, but it's also still kind of dependent on can I fill the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And the mentor, like we talked about, being able to cash in your mana creature to get a big, 3/3, 4/4 is very achievable on this. 5/5 is kind of achievable on your 2 mana creatures. So probably a 4 or 5 on raw strength for me.
Yeah.
4?
I'm happy with a 4. Maybe we throw this. I don't know. Do you think that we could get something stronger than these 2 cards?
Let's stretch to 5. Let's go to 5.
I think these might be the strongest that we see.
We got to use the skill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be in charge of the rabbit folk here, Tim.
All right. They look kind of fun, so I'm happy to read about them. Rabbit folk, token swarm. Whenever Magic attempts a token deck, I'm always pretty excited about it. Assemble as many rabbits and rabbit tokens as you can. Look for spells and effects that reward you for having lots of creatures in play or pump your whole team in combat. That is something I want to do. I don't know.
But this is like our own biases coming through and liking that. But hey, we're on the podcast, so we get to be biased.
All right, give us that uncommon.
Yeah, the uncommon is Burrowguard Mentor. Green, white for a rabbit soldier with star. Burrowguard Mentor's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. It has trample. I think we've seen this before. 2
This was
mana.
like a legend, right?
Yeah, Sisay of the Weatherlight, maybe.
Wasn't it the like great grandkid or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Shauna, Sisay's legacy. Yeah.
There we go.
+1/+1 for each creature you control. It had sort of hexproof, ability hexproof.
No trample, though?
No
I
trample.
think I like the trample more.
The trample is kind of nice. Protection from abilities is a little niche.
Mm-hmm.
As my first creature that I play, it's not very good, obviously. But then, turn 3, that's when I deploy the rabbits, and then that's when this goes big.
Yeah, or you go turn 1 1-drop, turn 2 raise the rabbits, turn 3 Beauregard Mentor. You got like a 4/4.
Raise the alarm, but for rabbits.
Yeah, raise the rabbits.
Okay. Then the common here, I'm really excited about this common. Head of the Homestead, 3 hybrid, 5 mana for a 3/2 rabbit citizen. When it enters, create 2 1/1 white rabbit creature tokens. So 5 mana, get a 3/2 and 2 1/1s.
There was a 5-drop that was these 2 cards combined. It was a 5-drop. It created 2 1/1s when it entered the battlefield, and then got power and toughness each equal to the number of creatures you control. So it's funny to see it separated now into 2 cards.
I'm pretty high on this hybrid. I don't know if I'm high enough. Can I get to 4 overall? This is my chance to play with a bunch of tokens, which I want to do. That's something that you don't get to do that often.
Do you think that these 2 cards are going to really enable it? I feel like the Selesnya token deck is something that we revisit somewhat frequently.
But I just feel like I'm not sated. I want to do more of it. I can't remember that many times where I was like, yes, I'm actually doing the token deck.
Yeah. Are these the 2 cards that make you feel like this is the time where you're really
That's a good question.
I'm more excited about the common than I am the uncommon.
But part of also what we're doing here is the excitement of this archetype. It's showing us some examples of some cards we'll get to play with. But then it's also saying there's more. There will be more rabbits, and those rabbits will help you have a huge team of rabbits. I guess we've got Offspring in the set, which is the mechanic where like you play a creature and then you could pay some extra mana to get like a baby copy of that creature.
Yeah.
So there are other sources of tokens, other sources of 2-in-1 creatures.
Like if you think of like you're designing your own set, you're pitching this set, and you're like, yeah, I have this token archetype. And the person's like, oh, that's awesome. I love tokens. And it's like, let me show you 2 of the cards from the token archetype. And you hand them these 2 cards. I feel like my excitement actually goes down a little bit, despite the fact that I love the art of the head of the homestead.
Okay. I think I'm at a 4. You're at a 3 or a 2, it sounds like.
I'm at a 2, so let's be in the middle. Give it a 3.
All right. Accuracy. Do you think you'll be able to have a lot of little guys, and do you think there'll be effects that like your whole team gets +1/+1 until end of turn, your whole team gains flying, your whole team blah blah blah?
Yeah, I think this is going to happen. I think that Beauregard Mentor is going to get pretty big, pretty chunky at some point in the game. If you have Beauregard Mentor out and you play Head of the Homestead, it's instantly a 2 mana 4/4, which is nice. And then you're only a couple away from that 6/6 number we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. 4 or 5. Yeah, maybe this is the Bloomburrow difference, is that these signposts are sort of like they're not working that hard. They're just telling you something that you're going to be doing in this set.
Hey, you're going to cast creatures and make tokens. Yeah, I can see from these 2 cards I'm going to do that. I'd give it a 4.
You've been burned before.
I have a bad habit of picking the small creatures and then dying to 6/6s.
Fair enough. Synergy, how much does this make other cards better or worse? I mean, this mentor is kind of reliant on the young folk to back him up.
Yeah, and the quintessential 3 mana, like make a 1/1 card, 3 mana make 2 1/1s, kind of thing.
It's like that carrot cake that makes like 2 rabbits over time.
All of those cards are kind of middling elsewhere, and once you get them in the token deck, they should increase the viability, theoretically, right?
So synergy probably starts at 3 for me.
I don't think I'm willing to go above 3.
Okay.
I mean, both of these cards are just kind of like general, put some bodies out there.
Yeah.
It does make like your anthems a little bit better. The all creatures get +2/+1, stuff like that.
I feel like the combination of anthems and making a lot of little guys is going to make me like a great matchup for that raccoon deck, because that raccoon deck's only going to have 2 creatures. I'm going to have 6. I'm going to give them all extra power. And then even if they want to block 2 of my creatures, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. You could maybe convince me to
3.
get this up to a 4. You like 3?
I'm fine with 3. Raw strength. Is it another one where we're kind of split? Like one card's real good, one card's not that great.
Yeah. What did we do last time? Gave him a 2 last time when we had that with red black.
Yeah.
This
has to be a 3, I think, because this head of the homestead is just so cool.
All right, you got headed the homestead at like a 5 right now, and Beauregard Mentor is probably a 2. Like, it's not terrible. It's not utter garbage.
It will have some games where it is a 7/7 or whatever, and that's like achievable. It's only a quarter or less of games, but it's just certainly doable.
Okay, so 3 seems good.
All right, next up
we got Batfolk in black-white. Deploy an army of flying bats and reap rewards for gaining or losing life during your turn. Mix in some good blockers and defensive spells to slow your opponent down while you attack in the air.
Oh, okay. So this is closer to like a blue-white flyers, but in black-white.
Yep. Yeah, black-white flyers.
Even gaining little bits of life, it sounds like, is going to matter. Paying life is like a spiky but very fun thing to do, like draw spells that deal a little damage to you, or, I mean, if we're going to higher rarities, things like Phyrexian mana are very exciting, the ability to pay life instead of mana. So if we get to indulge a little of that dark side, that's certainly exciting to me. All right, our uncommon here is, and the flavor on these bats is also wild. They're like crazy moon cultist. Like, their art style is totally different from everything else. That's certainly true for Starseer Mentor, which is 3 white black, 5 mana for a 3/5. It has flying and vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, if you gained or lost life this turn, target opponent loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a permanent or discard a card unless they're tormented.
Whoa! 5 mana, 3/5. Great flying blocker. We love to see that.
Yeah.
And then that end step trigger feels pretty strong.
I think this is telling me that this is going to be pretty reliable to do, maybe even more reliable than Expend in this deck, because the first 2 or 3 times you torment, you do this like lose 3 unless you sack, unless you discard. The first time you do that is really not a big deal for your opponent, but if you do it 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, then it's a massive problem for them. So this is saying try to do this. Try to make sure your whole deck is set up to do this.
Yeah, and maybe something helping you set that up is Moonrise Cleric. 1 hybrid for a 2/3 bat cleric with flying, and when it attacks, you gain 1 life.
Okay. This card would be kind of funny if it were just on its own, if this wasn't the bat theme. Kind of a classic 3 mana flyer, but you gain 1 life every time you attack.
Back in like either Battle for Zendikar or original Zendikar, the archetype uncommon was this. Attack, you gain 1 life. Like, really depressing.
Oh, okay. All right, let's work through these categories here. Excitement. Is this exciting to do?
I'm kind of into caring about gaining and losing life.
Yeah. That's like if I was in a core set and I was told to do that, I feel like there would be 3 cards that let me do that.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of saying to me, like, these bat cards are out there. If you can assemble all of them, you're going to do something wild, which is cool.
I think I'm willing to give this one a 4. I'm the bat like artwork specific. I've not seen like bat humanoid things in like fantasy setting before, so this is like really neat, interesting. It's really striking. But yeah, I think you're right. Stick to the mechanics.
You have to be like ready to be a freak for these like kind of unusual, like maybe accurate, like physically accurate bat pictures, but like this is the face only a mother could love on some of these. And maybe you're signing up for that. Maybe you want that kind of creature. All right, accuracy. Do you think it's going to be possible to have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ways of gaining, losing life during your turn? And do you think you'll be rewarded for doing so?
You know, you can probably get a life linker in there. You have this bat that gains 1 life when it attacks. You know, there could be like a Soul's Attendant type card. ETB gains you life. I feel like gaining 1 life is pretty normal at common. And then on top of that, you also have the occasional card that's going to lose you life, which I think is going to bump this up to something that feels like I'm going to be able to trigger it frequently. I think I'm going to be a little disappointed on the turns when I miss out and feel like, oh man, I got a little unlucky that I didn't hit. You sound a little bit more skeptical.
I'm a little more skeptical than that. I think that if you're not finding the bat cards, you're gonna have a hard time doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think having the payoffs might be the tough part.
Yeah, I think this is the closest to a 3 we've seen. But if you want 4, I'll let you have it.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a 3. You probably are going to be gaining and losing life. You're just not going to. Are you going to have the payoffs? And that's kind of what makes the archetype its archetype.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be the strongest of the payoffs, and it still also needs to trigger several times. You still need also to find some life gain in order for it to do anything. And I mean, kind of the nice thing about something like, the accuracy being kind of skeptical is that's maybe a good sign for synergy. How much does this make other cards better or worse? And I think that these bats here, if I assemble them, if I get 3 or 4 or 5 payoffs for gain, lose life, and I have 4 or 5, 6 ways to gain life, this is going to do something cool that I don't normally get to do. That feels kind of synergy-ish to me.
I mean, this archetype is relying on synergy. You have to have a card that gains or loses you life in order to trigger these cards that care about that.
Yeah.
So maybe a 4 here.
Yeah, okay. At least the 2 cards here are kind of baseline good, so they don't really need synergy to be playable cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I just have like 2 good white rares and a good black rare or whatever, like I'm going to be putting Star Seer Mentor in my deck no matter what, just because it's a good 5-drop flyer.
Yeah.
Which maybe means that like the raw strength is actually pretty decent on these cards. I guess it's kind of funny. We're kind of flipping back and forth between, do we think this archetype will happen? And then when we get to raw strength, we're just looking at the cards. We're just saying, are these 2 cards really solid playable cards that will do their job, even if you don't get there, even if you don't have the bat deck?
Yeah, and I like both of these cards.
Yeah.
I'm probably thinking maybe just around maybe a 4.
Yeah.
For both of them. Especially like Starseer Mentor, 5 mana, 3/5, fine vigilance. I'm happy about that, but I still really want to trigger that ability.
Yeah, I guess part of the raw strength thing is like, hey, here's a reason to try to do this, because even if you fail, you got me.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is going to be Is It? All right, Otterfolk, Instants and Sorceries. That's the whole theme name. Otters, this is just going to, I'm reading the Wikipedia entry. Otters love when you cast instant and sorcery spells and will reward you for doing so. Maybe that's the Pokedex entry or something. Aim for fewer creatures and varied spells, especially ones that will help you control the battlefield. Okay, so this is going to be somewhere between just like ride 1 prowess creature to victory and just play otters that like recur spells from your graveyard. So kind of control-y long game vibe here.
We can check out the uncommon here. Stormcatch Mentor, blue-red, for a 1/1 with haste, prowess, instants, and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Kind of a do-it-all card. Play this uncommon and then start casting instants and sorceries. Yeah,
it's like the kind of, is it, I just forgot his name, Goblin Electromancer kind of thing.
Yep.
Which was a 2/2 for 2 with that last line. This is a 1/1 for 2, but also has haste and prowess. So this is a little bit more, don't just get cheaper spells, also be tricky with those spells.
This is almost better, not necessarily the later you are in the game, but later in the game, you can play this and start triggering the prowess right away. Versus on turn 2, you might just run into another 1/1, or you might run into an opponent's 2 mana 2/2, and then you're in a little bit more awkward of a spot.
Yeah, I guess I am rarely trying to attack with a Goblin Electromancer, but this Mentor is saying I might be able to attack because I might get up to 3 power, 4 power, or I might be able to attack in a way that my opponent can't handle.
Yeah, the fact that you have your threat and your cost reduction all wrapped up in one, kind of nice for the pitch to, hey, play a few less creatures, play a few more spells.
All right, and our other one here, our common, is Tempest Angler. This is one hybrid, 3 mana for a 2/2, Otter Wizard. He's a raggedy looking guy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Tempest Angler. Oh.
Yeah.
That's been a solid card in the past. That was a weird, I want to say.
I think there's also like a dwarf.
Oh, yeah.
The dwarf comes with like haste and stuff, but he's a 2 mana 1/1. So you get one extra mana, you get a bonus power and toughness.
Yeah, I was pretty fond of casting Spellgorger Weird in War of the Spark, which is basically this card, but it costs 2 in a red instead of 1 hybrid.
Oh, nice. So you get a discount on Spellgorger Weird.
2 in a red. No, it's the same cost.
Right. Math is hard. That's why I stay away from the Izzet decks.
This does give me a lot of incentive to have, if I have 2 or 3 Tempest Anglers, which is possible because it's a common. Now I feel really good about just casting a lot of little spells.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we're seeing here is like as stock, as traditional as possible. There's no new keyword. These cards have really close analogs in existing Magic. So I'm not quite sure where to go with excitement, because do I kind of want to do this? Actually, it seems like I kind of want to do this. Have I seen this before? 100%.
Yeah. Hey, here Izzet spells is an archetype again, and these cards are probably good in it.
I think I might even drop down to 2. I feel like the token deck is a thing that I have wanted to play a lot and have not seen it happen. So like when it shows up, I'm like, is this possible? Can I do this? Whereas I have played the Izzet Spells deck in several sets before. I've played with essentially these exact cards before. I don't know. I'm closer to a 2 than a 3, but if you want 3, we can do it.
No, well, let's be harsh. Give it a 2. And let that be a lesson.
All right. Accuracy. Do you think it's going to be possible to do this? Do you think there are going to be other otters that care about instants and sorceries and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Do we think there's going to be enough spells that this is possible?
I think the big question I have here is about like getting these to land and stick and the deck coming together. But like you said, we've seen it in the past. So I have to think that these cards are going to remain viable in this new limited format. I'm pretty happy thinking this is going to come together.
Yeah, I can believe it. I'm at least starting at 4 here. 5. It's possible. The Mentor makes things cheaper and is sometimes going to be able to attack, but it's not that great at making sure you like have enough spells, or your creatures are safe or anything like that. It's pretty flimsy, so it may not actually be able to help carry a functioning deck.
Right.
All right, synergy. Does this make cards better? Does this make you want to cut cards from your deck that you might otherwise play? Will I want to play my beefy raccoon if I'm trying to be Izzet? Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to bring in that hybrid card, because I'm trying to get my instant sorcery number up to like 9, 10, 11 instead of like a more comfortable 5.
We ran into this last time we went through this scale as well of like, yeah, it makes me want to play more instants and sorceries. Is that synergy? Yeah, I suppose that's synergy. These cards are definitely encouraging me to play a different type of card. I still want the good versions of those cards, though.
Does it make like the so-so counterspell better? I mean, this Angler does, this common does, because I counterspell and my creature's getting bigger permanently. Like, it's making things that are like sometimes fringe. Do I want to play the blue protection spell, whatever that is? Maybe a little bit more, yeah, because I want to protect my Angler.
There we go. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm starting at 3.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Give it a 3. Do we want to bump it up to a 4?
Like, if I don't have a lot of instants and sorceries, this Mentor is kind of trash.
Yeah, let's put it up 4. I think
Okay.
I'm seeing the argument here.
All right, raw strength. I'm a little lower there. I think especially the mentor is pretty trash on raw strength. The angler, I think, is just, to me, kind of a proven card that I know is going to be kind of okay. But I could go down to like a 2 or a 1 on raw strength because of how much that mentor needs a deck around it.
I think I'm at a 2. The Tempest Angler just like isn't the type of like card I love playing, because like sometimes you like the Tempest Angler is like one of those cards you play on turn 3, and then like you try and set up something on turn 4, but like you have to have the setup for it, and then your angler has to live, and then late game like it can just kind of look super bad.
Yeah, top deck is kind of bad, yeah.
And that's not to say Angler's like a bad card. Like Angler's like a 3, and I feel like
Absolutely.
Stormcatch Mentor is like 1 or 2. So the Stormcatch Mentor is really the break point here, and I'm not super impressed by it. Like,
yeah.
So I'd say let's put this at let's put it at 2.
Okay. If this angler was not quite so proven, I could get down to 1, but
yeah,
that angler's just been, I've just seen so many like 5 power weirds.
You just have a creature that gets really out of hand.
Yeah. All right, we got 3 more. Who's next?
All right, black green is Squirrel Folk, food mid range. Hey, there you go. That's something new. Dominate the mid game with big creatures and creature removal spells. Look for ways to fill your graveyard and create food to take advantage of the squirrel's forage mechanic.
Okay. Dominate the mid game.
Yeah, that was
that's
not
some gamer text right there. Dominate the mid game. Be good for a little while and then peter off. The novelty is there. Food mid range. We've had food in other sets, like original Eldraine had kind of a food theme. Lord of the Rings had a food theme. But it's maybe even further off from the token thing, where like Lord of the Ring, the food theme was kind of trash, and it was new in Eldraine, so it was kind of novel there. But we haven't gotten a lot of like food is actually a cool thing to do. Food works. Food plays well. I'm medium to high on the excitement there. Is food on its base exciting? Not really. You kind of have to zhuzh it up to make it exciting. But I'm open.
Yeah, and hopefully this forge mechanic has something going for it to kind of juice this up. You know, once again, we're kind of hinging on a mechanic to judge our excitement level here.
All right, here for this gold card, we got kind of an enabler more than a payoff. It's called Vine Reap Mentor. It's 2 mana, black-green for a 3/2. Squirrel Druid. And when it enters or dies, create a food token.
2 mana, 2 tokens, 3/2. Going to trade profitably for a little bit.
I want it to die because I want these tokens for some reason that we'll find out. This is something where if I'm playing this black-green deck, I think I kind of want like as many of these as I can draft. If this deck is going to work, I want to get 3 of these if I can, because I have to just trust that I'm going to want this food real bad.
And you are going to want those food because Corpseberry Cultivator is a 1 hybrid for a 2/3 Squirrel Warlock. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may forage, exile 3 cards from your graveyard, or sacrifice a food. And whenever you forage, put a +1/+1 counter on Corpseberry Cultivator.
This is a pretty solid one. And plays very nicely with the Mentor.
Yeah, you have a great curve here of 2-drop, 3/2, make a food, 3-drop, 2/3, sacrifice the food. Now it's a 3/4.
Yeah, it's funny to see like whenever you keyword action on a common. Like normally the like whenever you cast a spell a flashback, that's going to be an uncommon.
Yeah, that's true. This is saying that you want to make food because you want to forage, and sacrificing a food is how much easier than exiling 3 cards from your graveyard. Probably, I mean, early game, significantly easier.
Yeah.
Late game, you know, maybe the food is more relevant to you, and that's when you start exiling 3 cards.
I mean, to me, that it kind of means that if I'm playing with the food deck, this cultivator, this common, every turn will have the option of foraging. Because between food and a couple things dying, I'm going to have the fuel. If I don't have any food, then I have to wait a while. You know, it's eating away and preventing me from playing threshold cards. So exiling 3 cards just to get a 1/1 counter. That's not that great. But if I could play this food deck, if I can invest in playing food cards, I'm doing something kind of cool with this.
Yeah, and I'm pretty into forage as a keyword here, or keyword action, whatever the definition is, where if it feels flavorful, I have a lot of options, I have a lot of ways to build around it, I have an interesting choice to make, later in the game. So forage, not the same letdown that expend was for me here either.
But cooler than expend for sure.
Mm-hmm. This is a squirrel warlock, but I have no idea what is warlocky about him. He looks like he is just eating berries.
Well, the flavor text here says that like he's growing berries that only grow in the bodies of calamity beasts.
Oh, okay.
So he finds a big dead moose or whatever, and then he starts planting.
Got it. So squirrel chef would have been better. Squirrel botanist. I guess that's if you're a botanist chef, that makes you a warlock.
Alrighty, so excitement. This probably starts at 3. I could maybe go up to 4. Would I get to 5? We haven't gotten a 5 for excitement, and that's maybe what we were thinking to going in. It's like, these build arounds aren't that exciting.
I know it's like a 5 relative to the rest of the set, but like probably just a 4 as far as like genuine. Like, how much can I get excited?
This is a little more fun than the average Golgari graveyard deck because I have this like kind of 2 option thing where I have like a variety of cards that will help my plan.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting use of the food token, and like you said, we're still just Golgari graveyard in the background.
Yeah. All right. Do you want 4 or do you want to go down to 3?
I want 4. Give it a 4.
Accuracy. Is it going to be possible to forage? Are my food tokens actually going to be eaten by things that want to forage?
Does this uncommon signal to you that, food is going to be prevalent, food's easy to make?
It certainly signals that food is going to be desirable. Because our gold card, our 1 gold card for this, all it does is make food.
If you have 2 of these, it can provide you the foraging fuel for like 4 turns for your common forager.
Yeah.
I think I'll be foraging pretty often. What do you think? You think you can get this up to a 5, or you want to stick around 4? I'm kind of in that zone.
Well, it's forage, so.
Oh, okay. All right, so 5 it is.
All right, synergy. Does this make other cards better? Do these cards become kind of useless if you don't put the support around them? The cultivator. I mean, we did talk about it's got a fallback.
Even that fallback like gives it kind of, like you said, 2 angles of attack. If you have a couple mill cards, it'll synergize with your mill cards. If you have a food producer, it'll synergize with your food producer.
Yeah. So the synergy can't be like a 1.
It makes you want more food cards in your deck.
Yeah. And with the mentor, if I just saw this without knowing, like if we're just in a set that has a lot of gold cards for some reason, and one of them is this thing that like enters or dies, creates food tokens, that's a card I'm not that interested in. I don't really care that much about food tokens. So that's sort of saying to me that this does kind of want to be put in a deck that cares about food.
And when it's in that deck that cares about food, you're pretty into it.
Yeah. I wonder if I'll be able to like convert food into cards even, like forage to draw a card or something.
Now we're cooking.
Yeah.
Might need to go back to that excitement. Raise it up a meter, the potential for card draw.
I think I'm probably at least like a 4.
3 or 4.
This mentor really is all about synergy, and the cultivator feels like it could pop off if I have a deck that cares about foraging.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Imagine you have like 2 cards that can, like you have 2 food tokens and you have 2 cards that can forage and get 2 counters.
And those other cards are foraging for value, and then this cultivator is just getting 2 counters just for free.
Yeah, and if you're seeing whenever you forage at common, then you have to expect that there's going to be other cards that say whenever you forage as well.
If I have 2 of them in play, they still function because one of them forages, but they both pump up.
Yeah. You want to go for a 5?
Do other people want the food cards? Probably not.
I've seen no reason in any other colors to get those food cards.
Yeah, maybe let's go up to 5.
think the enemy colors, if I remember last time, were also pretty high on synergy.
Oh,
I'll be curious to compare. We'll talk about that later.
Analysis.
Ooh.
We have trending. Who's trending up and down on raw strength, set to set?
I mean, these cards are not strong face value. If you're not doing the thing.
Yeah, the cultivator I think is okay, but not good.
Because if you're looking at playing this on turn 3, you might have 1 or 2 turns where you don't even forage if you don't have a food.
You just have a 2/3 sitting around. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very plausible. It's like kind of an okay top deck. It's a 3-mana 4/4 on turn 8 or whatever.
And then this uncommon is nothing. If it unless you told me this was the cares about food archetype, then this card would be like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, 2-mana 3/2. I feel like I'm closer to a 2 than a 1. Are you trying to get down to 1?
I'm trying to get down to 1 because use the whole scale.
Yeah.
But we don't need to force it down to 1. 2-mana 3/2 does trade up. Is the big thing.
If I have a removal spell, this is going to hit for 9 damage.
If you have like classic 2-mana sacrifice a creature, destroy. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe I'm too impressed by a 2-mana 3/2, but maybe I'm like 2014 brained on my evaluation of a 2-mana 3/2.
Yeah, but I think you're right. It's a 2.
Yeah. Next up are mice, which I think are the one people were most excited about. Like when it's like, hey, we're doing Animal World.
Yeah, we love our mousy friends.
Our description here is valiant aggro. Mice always prefer to be on the attack, so include plenty of aggressive, low mana value creatures. Support them with equipment and combat enhancing spells and abilities to trigger the Valiant ability. Yeah, Valiant, fixed heroic when you target it with a spell or ability, but only once each turn.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, equipment's quite nice. You can kind of do your own version of Nadu, where you just re-equip onto each of your creatures every turn.
What's with the Valiant mice trope? If I'm in Storybook World, yeah, this checks out. Mice are always like way braver than they should be. But if I'm in the real world, like I do not think of mice as particularly brave.
Maybe we've got like Tom and Jerry. We've got the little mouse who has to fight off like the big cat.
Yeah.
Mice are cute. I mean, they're cuter than... They're the littlest guys. Are they the littlest creature, maybe?
Yeah, is it just that like no one can, like, everyone just wants to see a mouse with a little tiny rapier. Like, there's just something about it. Like, you got the Chronicles of Narnia. What is it? Caspian's something? The Dawn Treader?
I don't
know. There's a mouse with a rapier in that.
Okay.
Red Wall, mice with swords,
Yeah.
like that so much.
Everyone seemed to be into it, so.
Well, what about mice with glaives? Seed Glaive Mentor, 1 red white. For a 3/2 mouse soldier, has vigilance and haste and valiant whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it.
3 mana 3/2 vigilance haste, so it's got some keywords on there. I don't normally like the 3 mana 3/2, but we got some stuff on there.
Yeah.
My opponent dared to attack with their 2-drop. I get to swing back with this guy and punish them. When it becomes this target of a spell or ability, you get a +1/+1 counter. I guess now that we have ability on there, that's going to really open up what we can do with that in the set. In Theros, we really wanted the flying heroic creature to target and to build up into a big thing. Because with that 2 toughness on this mentor, it's going to be a while before it's actually like fearsome in combat.
Right.
You probably got to get at least up to 4 toughness, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
But your combat tricks are super live with this. You're going to force a lot of trades, or your opponent's not going to want to block it. So maybe it just intimidates your opponent away from blocking it. Yeah, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's not got the wow factor of some of the other uncommons we've seen so far. But it is a good signaler of what the archetype's trying to do.
And our common here is Veteran Guard Mouse. This is 3 and a hybrid, 4 mana for a 3/4. That's a big mouse. 4 mana, 3/4 mouse.
Bigger than the raccoon from earlier.
Oh my god. That's an old raccoon though.
Yeah, you're right. This is a
Valiant. Whenever it becomes a target, blah, 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 blah. It gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. Scry 1.
Oh, very nice.
So this one's really centered around getting your card back every time you target. This gets blocked. This blocks something. Then I target it. Then I win the combat with first strike. And I also scry 1. So no matter, as long as I've got the combat trick, I'm either killing a thing that the opponent didn't expect to die. I'm keeping this alive when the opponent didn't expect it to live. And even if things don't go fully great there, I also get to scry 1. And by the time I've cast my 4-drop, I've played 4 of my lands. I've played 1 or 2 of my other spells. I have a narrower range of cards that I want to see on the top of my deck. So a turn 6 scry, a turn 7 scry is usually pretty valuable.
Yeah, if you have an equipment to move around, it's kind of nice to tack this scry on. You don't get the surprise, but you do help filter your draws. And you feel better about, I'm going to spend some mana to move this equipment. That's going to feel good to actually have that be relevant.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we haven't done Heroic in a long time. Heroic was like kind of cool on a couple cards and kind of non-functional on a lot of cards in original Theros. But we're trying something different with this Valiant thing. How excited are you?
The equipment targeting makes me a little bit more excited.
Makes me feel like I'm going to do busted stuff. It's like a little like
mm-hmm. Okay, on one hand, they're bringing back a mechanic.
Yeah.
And then they're also fixing that mechanic. How excited can you be for that?
I feel like they have greatly upgraded Heroic with Valiant.
Mm-hmm. I remember when Theros first came out and like so many people would attach equipment and think it triggered Heroic.
Yeah.
So it's for me, it really feels like they're just fixing the sins of the past.
They're also a lot more comfortable with the once each turn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like kind of what you want to encourage anyhow. You don't want to just encourage like the full storm out. I attack with my flying heroic guy and then I target it 3 times and deal like 14 damage out of nowhere or whatever. You don't totally want that. I mean, it's cool, but it shouldn't be your average thing. I would say I'm pretty excited for this. I probably started at a 3 and I could maybe even go up a little bit.
I was actually going to bump it up to a 4.
Yeah.
This feels like a Boros archetype that is doing the Boros things in a way that is more interesting than the average Boros archetype.
All right. Accuracy. Do you think you'll be able to do this? This is an easy 5 for me. I'm pretty confident you'll be able to do this.
Yep, this is happening. You don't have to do it every turn, but you can set up some sweet turns. And that's nice. And the fact that equipment can trigger it means that you can do it way more frequently than you were with Heroic.
Yeah. And I feel like they're like multiple birds with mice in their art because they're helping them. Like there's already some other tribes are helping make this these mice succeed. Synergy, does this make cards better? I think that's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to pick up some equipment late in the draft that other people aren't going to want, that you're going to kind of be into. And then that the random combat tricks as well.
Yeah.
Is this a 5 on synergy too, you think?
Are my cards bad if I don't do the thing? Maybe. Like I was talking earlier about this mentor before we started like going into Valiant. If I've just got a 3-mana 3/2 Vigilance Haste, that is not a card that I'm that excited for.
And it has Vigilance on it, and you're not that excited.
Yes, it's kind of the just like, I will trade with another 3-drop is what that says.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the synergy starts at 4, and we can talk about a 5 here. How many cards that you'd normally play work with Valiant? Not a ton.
Like, are you increasing the number of I really feel like you are. You're paying a lot more attention drafting to what is going to trigger your Valiant.
When we were looking at this guard mouse, it was really clear to me that this guard mouse is all about making sure you can convert combat tricks at least 1 for 1, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like 4 or 5 to me.
Let's do 5. I'm feeling generous as we get later.
All right. And then raw strength, I'm kind of medium on this. The guard mouse being a 4-mana 3/4 is like a pretty good baseline.
Yeah.
We've seen that with, I guess, a lot of cards here. They're making sure that these multicolor cards even if they're hybrid, are like good stat lines.
I think the Seed Glaive Mentor is the one bringing down the pack here, holding everybody up.
Yeah, it starts low on its first read, and then once you make the deck that's built around it, it becomes quite nice. So, yeah, that's maybe a 3 overall.
I'm almost leaning to 2, just because both of these cards are kind of sad on their own.
Okay.
The Veteran Guard Mouse isn't terrible.
Sure. Let's do it. All right. We got one left, and it's your job to read the intro here.
All right. Revisiting Frog Folk here.
Yeah.
Make use of creatures with abilities that trigger when they enter the battlefield. Many frogs have ways of blinking creatures or returning them to your hand. With all that extra value, you'll be strong in the late game.
Yeah.
Talked about this a little bit on a previous episode, but frogs are all about, bouncing and returning and ETBing.
Yeah. I remember seeing a lot of cards when we had that frog episode. Like, I remember seeing a bunch of cards go by that weren't just blink. They also, like, return to hand in interesting ways from graveyards or from the battlefield, or you can optionally just return a creature every turn, which you normally wouldn't do for tempo reasons, but maybe you want to with the frogs. Our gold card here is actually a little more traditional. It's Lily Splash Mentor. It's 2 green-blue, so 4 mana for a 4/4 with reach, Frog Druid. 1 green-blue. Exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Activate only as a sorcery.
As the resident Simic skeptic, this is pretty sweet for a Simic signpost, considering what we've gone through before. You still get that upfront value of like, here will at least give you a good body, but then like late game you just get to upgrade all of your creatures and trigger ETBs. Like, all right,
Yeah,
okay.
even without ETBs, you at least have this option late game to upgrade each of your creatures. What's our common?
Our common is Pawn Prophet. Hybrid for a 1/1 that ETBs and draws you a card.
Wow. Keeping it simple.
Elvish Mystic for hybrid.
Yep. It's kind of interesting to see the double hybrid, because that means you kind of have to be frogs to play this card. It's not exactly a gold card, but if you're trying to play the aggressive, I guess
Frog deck has a lot easier time casting this on 2.
Yeah. I guess there is some crossover now that I was a little skeptical at first, but like crossing over into like, hey, I want to make sure I have cards in my graveyard for the squirrels. Yeah, well, this Prophet helps with that. I want to make sure I'm spending mana. Okay, yeah, it's actually good with raccoons too. And they don't mind being a little slower. So maybe it's actually kind of okay. It's good with Threshold. So I thought this was frog focused, but now I'm realizing that a lot of other decks can play this too.
Yeah, and an Elvish Mystic does go good pretty much anywhere.
Yeah. If you're never going to blink it, are you still playing it? I don't know. Who knows? Before we figure that out, let's talk about the excitement. I have to start at 5 with this because this was exciting enough to me that I recorded a whole episode about frogs.
I do not feel the need to talk you off the edge here, Tim. I think that uncommon is sweet. We want focus on the mechanics, but sometimes when the mechanics and the flavor match perfectly and you got frogs jumping up and down, you gotta reward it.
Yes. All right, I'm loving it.
All right. Accuracy, how?
I guess it's more likely now that there are going to be creatures with ETBs than there were in the past, so we're doing okay there.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about having creatures that I want to flicker.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about being able to flicker them efficiently and actually progress my board state relevantly.
Yeah, to actually get ahead instead of just dirtling around.
Yeah.
Turtling around. Frogging around.
The Lily Splash Mentor really nails the description in the little bio of, with all that extra value, you'll be strong in the late game. I think that's true. If you make it to the late game with Lily Splash Mentor, you're going to be intimidating. At the base level, upgrading all your creatures is great, awesome, very cool.
Yeah.
And then the upside of like, I have a pawn profit, so I'll also draw a card. Seems relevant. How is that going to look leading up to that, though, is what concerns me.
Yeah. I guess the thing when I was looking at this and I was kind of thinking about other blink archetypes that we've had in the past, when you have like a blue-white blink deck in Limited, you really can struggle to have power either early in the game or late in the game. But having green in here, having it be green-blue instead of blue and white, I can still just incorporate a couple green creatures if I need to shore up some part of my game. I can get an efficient 2-drop. I can get a giant 3-drop. Green is going to give me the creatures I need to make my curve solid, which opens up some time, opens up some room to do silly stuff.
Does that viability, does the just sheer power, literal power and toughness of your creatures bump it up from, say, a 2 to a 3 or a 3 to a 4?
There probably can't be that many ways to flicker your creatures. There probably can't be more than a couple. Like a blue spell, some green spell that like returns a creature every turn. You run low on cards that can do that pretty quickly. Yeah, so 3 or 4. I probably couldn't go down to 2. I believe at least enough.
I think I'm looking at a 3 here. I think
okay,
it's a 3, and maybe that is a compliment to the ambition of at least one of these archetypes.
Yeah, that's actually kind of something we want to see for some of these. You know, in the set, we want to see things that are like, this is actually hard to do, but if you do it, it's going to be cool. Like that's actually kind of okay to have in a set. I think that's one of the things that I've been learning between the last episode and this one is your archetypes having a bunch of 1s in some places and 5s in others is totally fine. Like that just makes them feel different.
Yeah, it adds like texture to the archetype. It adds texture to your set. That's like,
all right, synergy. Does this make cards better? I think so. If you have just Lily Splash Mentor and a bunch of regular creatures, or you have just Pawn Prophet and a bunch of regular cards, both those cards are kind of missing something, but they do elevate when they're together.
Man, are you down on Elvish Mystic? Is Elvish Mystic not a good card anymore? Did I miss something? It used to be good, right?
I'm not positive. I'm sure I've cast Unlimited, but not enough to be like, oh yeah, this is really doing it.
Okay. But this is definitely this is a synergy archetype.
Yeah.
Lily Splash Mentor is fine by itself, but you really want other things. You want something to be spending this mana on.
Yeah.
It's funny because ETB cards already have a baseline. They're pretty good. But the flicker, when you start to flicker them, it really does like increase their power and make you desire them more, even though you already desired them. So it's kind of interesting. It's high synergy, but with cards that already kind of have high power level anyway.
Are these cards okay on their own? I guess they're okay.
I'm not excited about Lily Splash Mentor unless I have, unless I'm in the Flicker deck. I'm fine with a 4-mana 4/4 reach.
Yeah, I guess we'll get some of that with raw strength. I cannot imagine any blue-green decks that would not play this.
Yeah.
So it's got at least that kind of thing going.
So you think synergy probably around I'm thinking just maybe a 4.
Yeah. I guess the synergy, we're trying to say, like, can we imagine that there will be other cards out there that will make these cards better? Yeah, we can imagine that. All right, raw strength. I'm probably starting around 3 with this. The Mentor is just a big brick of a creature, which is going to keep you safe, and is late game going to upgrade each of your creatures. So that's a pretty solid one. And you're a huge fan of Elvish Visionary, so.
Yeah, I know. I did not expect to be the number 1 Elvish Visionary fan on this podcast.
I guess maybe we should start at 4 then, because we're saying both these cards are good. Are they incredible?
I think they're at 4. Yeah, I don't think either of them get to a 5. Lily Splash Mentor is a really impressive card.
I'm pretty close to 5. You're skeptical on the raw power on that, but I guess whereas I'm more skeptical on the profit. So you're even on both of them. I'm more split on them, but either way we average out.
Yeah. All right, 4 it is.
Did you put all this design challenge stuff in the air? Or was
No,
that?
I'm guessing this was Juliet.
Oh my God. We got a phantom challenge editor. All right. And we got a new design challenge, which is going to be 8 legs a week. I love you. All right. So for this challenge, you have to design a card that makes an 8/8 octopus creature token. We saw 2 of those in Bloomburrow Commander. You've seen this 8/8 commander or this 8/8 token before. We want to see a little bit more. This is a little bit of a tough base challenge. So we got some more fun ones for the bonus points. Bonus point 1 from is I want to hold your hand. Use the word hand on the card. Return to your hand, look at a hand, add something to your hand, something like that. Our last bonus point is an octopus's garden in the sea. The card can potentially make more than one of these tokens. So we got some way. It doesn't have to make them all right away, but like an enchantment or something that could potentially make an 8/8 octopus token multiple times. Where are you starting with this? This is a tough baseline. Making it 8/8 that really restricts what you can do.
Yeah, because you're not gonna have a lot of 1, 2, 3 drops making an 8/8. So
Yeah.
And the higher mana value you get, the more you gotta juice up the card.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. I don't know where I'm starting. I have had a little streak going on for a little bit where I just ignore the bonus points.
Oh, okay.
So this is my shout out to all the Beaconeers. Reject the bonus points. That's how you make your submission stand out and be unique. Oh, this person didn't meet any of the bonus points. Yeah, starting with just a big mana value blue card's probably where I'm at right now.
We got Beatles month somehow. I don't know. We just kind of stumbled into it.
I didn't even when I was like picking. Juliet gave us like a huge list of these.
Yeah,
and this one stuck out to me. Didn't even know it was a Beatles reference. That's my Beatles knowledge is not up to snuff.
My mom is a Beatles super fan, so I listened to a lot of it growing up. I actually kind of thought the Beatles when I was a kid. I didn't really differentiate them from like kid songs. Like albums or shows meant for kids. Yeah. Like a song about an octopus's garden. That's like a PBS show.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to understand that they're just adults making music for, I guess, 15-year-olds rather than 8-year-olds. All right, and so that's going to be due August 30th. That's about it for the podcast for the week. Join the Discord, all the actions in there. We had another kind of mega signpost episode. We're a little trimmer this time, but still a big one. So thanks for coming on and enduring through this with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. We're getting in the flow. We'll have these down to crisp 30 minutes by the time we'll be pros at going through signposts.
People will just know our opinions and they'll just intuit what we would say.
The black, white, okay. 2, 4, 3, 1. Okay, next start time.
Pin code or episode content. You decide. All right. Do you want to give us a rec before we get out of here?
Oh, I'm on a David Fincher kick right now.
Oh, the Finchman.
The Finchman, yeah. And so I just watched Panic Room for the first time. Jodie Foster, super young Kristen Stewart.
Yeah. It's like Kristen Stewart. I didn't know that.
Yeah. This is like one of her first movies is Panic Room. It's if you know me, you know I'm into like bottle movies or I've been dreaming of creating a bottle set where the whole set takes place in like the smallest location possible. So Panic Room is a movie. It all takes place in one house and specifically centers on the panic room in the house. Robbers are trying to break in and what they want is in the panic room. Yeah. But it's honestly one of the scariest movies I've watched recently. And like, I'm not a stranger to horror, but like just the very reality of it was very unnerving and some of the shots were really stressful. So not something you want to do if you're looking to relax for the evening.
Yeah. I can't wait to go get stressed out. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Please enjoy, Tim.
All right. While I'm looking that up, if you need to contact us, I'm Tim F. Riley. You are Mono Whiteboarder. And thanks everyone for listening.